Welcome to the Teacher's Toolkit for Literacy, the free podcast for motivated teachers and school leaders who want to inspire their students and school community in literacy learning. Make sure you subscribe to the show on your favourite podcast player, and for more amazing literacy resources, check out the show notes provided with every episode.
Hi, I'm Sharon, and I'm the host of A Teacher's Toolkit for Literacy. In every Toolkit episode, we bring you specific resources, tools, strategies, tips, techniques to help you in your job as a teacher of literacy. Firstly, we acknowledge and pay our respects to the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians whose ancestral lands we gather on. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of the Kaurna people to country, and we respect and value their past, present, and ongoing connection to the land and cultural beliefs. Hi, everybody.
And welcome everybody to another special podcast. Every Toolkit episode we bring you resources, tools, strategies, tips, techniques to help you in your job as a teacher of literacy. Today, also numeracy. I just wanted to talk a bit, Sharon, about this is a time, Christmas time, everyone's coming home to visit us.
I know, exciting.
Exciting.
Well, yes.
And a bit of a celebration. So talking about celebration, it's something we should do more of sometimes in our classrooms to celebrate our learning.
Yes, without a doubt.
Because
plenty of opportunities for sharing, as you say, celebrating. And we can do that in many ways, both within our classrooms and outside of classrooms, sharing beyond our classrooms.
And it's almost like it's an essential part of the learning, isn't it? Like to celebrate what you've learnt. Otherwise, Yeah,
we would all be nodding to that, wouldn't we? That when we achieve something or when we have discovered something, noticed something, we want to share that. And of course the sharing is part of, making that transformative step from it just happening into, why did that happen? Let me share it. Let me work out more about what went on there.
Yep.
More about the learning.
Now, every so often on a podcast, we bring along a special guest, and today is one of those days, and we've got a wonderful educator, Rob Vingerhoets, highly experienced teacher, leader, consultant, author, and we want to make a few connections from numeracy across to literacy because it's all about the learning, isn't it, Sharon?
Yes, yeah, and we've brought Rob on today specifically because he and we have very aligned pedagogies around learning pedagogy. We believe a lot of the same things. Well, actually, maybe all of the same things.
Yep.
And so when we talk and think about learning, we know that translates across all areas of the curriculum. That's not, a domain for literacy or for numeracy, but for all our learning experiences.
Yeah. And we met Rob when we were working in New York. Now, isn't it amazing, a profession where you get to call to go over and work in New York or another country and then you meet other great professionals. What a great opportunity that was.
Absolutely. So about 17 years ago now, we had this wonderful opportunity to experience New York professionally with Rob and as a family, or as our two families together, because at the time both of us had young children that we had uprooted from school in Australia through to doing some of their schooling in the New York City public school system, and what an experience that was for us all. But I can hear Rob already in the background. So
and without further ado...
So let the man come on.
Okay, bring him down. Come on, Rob.
G'day, Sharon and Phil. I know that was a good preamble. It's nearly dark here now. So.
Yeah, well, we know that if we'd have brought you in earlier, we'd have never got anything said. So.
At least we got our bit, so that was good.
Did well. Did very well.
So game over. Now it's over to you.
Thank you very much for the invitation to come on and do a podcast for Q Learning. Thank you. Much appreciated.
Yes, and we want to acknowledge too, Rob. So, Rob, you're based in Melbourne, and your consultancy, Rob Vingerhoets. Do you call yourself Rob Vingerhoets Consultancy, or
I chuck an educational in there just so I sound smarter than I really am. So it's Rob Vingerhoets Educational Consultancy. But look, anybody wants me to consult on anything, I'll just do it.
You'll give it a go for sure. Yes.
I'll make it up and just chuck in a couple of research shows every 5 or 6 minutes, and then it should be fine.
And anybody who can spell Vingerhoets is really doing well,
It's actually a nice little start to a lesson. I put my name up on the board, and I don't tell the kids what it is. And hopefully, sometimes I check with the teacher that they haven't sort of announced it, but often the teacher can't pronounce it anyway. So I just put my name up on the board, and I call for a volunteer. I said, anybody brave enough to try and say my name? And always somebody will have a go, whether it's year 5s or 8s or preps, they'll have a go. And then I give them a percentage score. So whatever they say, I go, that's great effort. Thanks very much for having a go. And I tell you what, that is 67% accurate. And that's all you have to do. Once you've said it's 67%, the kids know the target is 100. It's just an intuitive, inherent thing. So the next kid gets a bit closer. That is 79% accurate. And occasionally somebody just nails it first go, and they've never seen it before, and they just nail it, and it's not an easy name. And so I just go, that's 100%, or I give them 99.99, and it's just a fun way you can do that without having a surname that's difficult. You just put up a difficult word, and let the kids have a go at it, and just give them a percentage score. What a just natural, easy marriage of maths and a bit of spelling.
So you're fascinated about getting kids really excited about their learning. When you went to New York, what sort of things did did it stretch your boundaries in some ways, or what things came out of that?
It was just the realisation. There was an impression when you went over that there was a nation that was very textbook driven. That's a generalisation. Of course, there's going to be individuals and even schools that are different to that. But the generalisation wasn't far off the real when we got there. It was it was soulless teaching and because teachers are literally reading out of the textbook, because the textbook would even give you an introduction, what to say to the kids. And it was...
So you actually saw that, programs or books and working from them, it wasn't really getting the kids excited about their learning, and you were trying to show the teachers a more hands-on way of getting into the learning. Is that right?
Yeah, that was very much just engaging the kids. We were both over there, Phil, and Sharon as well. And I don't know all your schools, but I know that we ended up working in the same school together, Phil, which was an extremely hard act for you to follow me after I left it.
It was. I mean, I had to change my name to Vingerhoets. I mean,
and this is for everybody listening. This was in an area called Bushwick, and it's. I think it's slowly becoming gentrified, but it's got a long way to go. It's a very, very tough area. So you've got this combination of tough kids and teachers who aren't engaging them because they're doing literally teaching maths and a lot of it for literacy too out of a textbook. So you've got disengaged kids who are trouble on a stick. I think the eye-opener, what helped win the American teachers over, was that they could see their kids were engaged, and when they were engaged, they don't play up. I know it's simplistic, but it's actually true.
So what were some
engaged kids don't play up.
What were some of the first things you did to show them a different way,
Oh, look, I think that as always, and I think how I am with this, Phil and Sharon, you've seen it in action before too, is get the kids into a warm-up just straight away. I might do the name thing or whatever, but after a while they just know me, so that's a bit pointless. But so I just get the kids straight into a warm-up activity. This is crucial. This is sometimes I think there's a perception that this is like a Mickey Mouse part of the lesson. It's not real. It's not the important bit. I'd regard the warm-up as crucial. Just a crucial part of the lesson. It's where you establish your momentum and just establish yourself and you establish the kids in maths, and you hook them in, and then don't lose it. But that's so my thing with those kids in America and kids everywhere is whether it's Whyalla or whether it's here in Melton or wherever it is to get the kids in, to hook them in quickly with something that's engaging.
Yeah, I think there's another thing that you. I don't know that you use the term, but you're definitely not just engaging, but you're really connecting with kids through that warm-up. You know, that there is
a relationship.
There's some relationship building. There is interaction within you, you know, between you, and it's not, as you say, if you're doing that from a scripted standpoint, you're not building those things. You're not, you know, really creating personal entry points and personal relationships to be able to say, okay, this is what we're into, this is how we can engage with this. You've just shown them, you know, just by putting a word up there or a name up there that, okay, we can have fun with this, you know, with any word, with and we can think, you know, we can think in ways that aren't textbook-driven ways. We can, you know, think creatively and excitedly and engagingly.
Yeah, that's the key, Sharon. It's really because it's a warm up. You don't want to be talking too much. So whatever warm up activity I have, it's virtually straight over to the kids.
And you're virtually saying that they're problem solvers and thinkers straight away, aren't you? That's what
you're upright and breathing. Well, you've got something to offer. I don't need to tell you everything. Let's find out what you know. Yeah. And so I use that warm up activity to just generate interest, engagement, and when I've got that, I'm now in a position to talk to kids, to listen to them. So the first thing I do is try and get their names. I try and get every kid's name as quick as I can, so they just trust me. They realise that this guy's going to be fun. This is going to be engaging. I want to listen. I want to engage with him. So regularly, it's just straight into it. I might do a warm-up activity like tell me 10 things about, which could be related to the lesson, the main part of the lesson coming up. But I might draw with preps, I might draw a triangle up on the board, or I might put a number up on the board, or I might just put an analog clock up next to the whiteboard and just say, okay, bring it on. What do you know about this? Nobody in the room's allowed to tell me more than one thing. What's your name? Oh, I'm Franco. Franco, what do you got? That's got 3 sides. Love it. And so I'm saying to the kids, what do you know? It's not about what I know. I can tell you it's a triangle. It's got 3 sides and it's this and that. But then it's all about me. I want to know what you know already. And I think part of the art of teaching. Oh, sorry, Phil. The art of teaching is trusting yourself to trust your kids.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. When we were thinking about a title for this podcast, we, you've got that thing of trying to build up the momentum in a lesson, I'm really fascinated by your, you call it the trench of lost momentum, where we're in danger of losing that momentum during a lesson, and you're showing the teachers you're not only just doing that warm-up, but then let's get that lesson going so we don't lose the momentum across the lesson. Can you talk a bit about the trench of lost momentum and
I think it's coming out in Netflix as a mini-series thing, because anything with a title like Goodfellas just got to be put on screen.
Well, I'd like the film rights if I could have it.
Thank you, all yours. The trench of lost momentum. It's actually as a graphic, it's on my website, www.robvingerhoets.com.au, but you can see it there as a graphic, but it sort of follows the lesson structure. So you've got your warm-up, winner, you've engaged the kids, high momentum. And where I do some observing as well as doing most of my time in classrooms, but where you then have a big risk, the high risk area of losing that momentum is when you now talk too much and over-explain, over-instructionalise, over-tell. and just watch your kids drop off. So I try and make that introduction time a time where I add some more key words. I might outline the task. If it's a game, I might go over the rules, but then I straight into it. And that's that. Once again, it's that trusting yourself to trust your kids. And I see real momentum losers. It's like teachers who give the instructions 3, sometimes even 4 times because they see 3 or 4 kids who are looking a bit doubtful. You only have to get 50% of your kids who understood your instructions, then let them go. Because there's now enough people in the room who can tell another kid in the room what it was, or there's now enough people that a kid can look on another kid's work and just say, oh, yeah, I see what you're doing, and off they go. So this aiming for 100% of your kids to understand your instructions, no wonder we lose momentum. Like if you got 50%, you've got enough. Yeah. And so that's all I aim for, and go, off you go. Then what the key to it then is get going and around the kids. So I try to keep my introduction after the warm-up to 5 to 10 minutes max, depending on the activity. Sometimes I'm going in 3 minutes, 2 minutes, because it's a straightforward, open-ended task, whatever it is. And I say, get going. And they just look at you. They're so not used to this. There's some kids are instructionally dependent already, and they go, well, tell me what to do. No, you go and find out what to do. If you're really stuck, I'll help you out. But because it's not like it's a contest. So I love that they ask one another and they look after one another to get started. I'm roving around and I spot the kid who I know had trouble with my instructions, so I go to him or her and just say, okay, you're ready to go. This is what you need to do. And so it's just so there's no loss of momentum.
Oh, and do you really talk about that when children are going off to work independently or with support from the others in the room? You often talk about that being like that's your optimum teaching time.
Yeah,
because it's
absolutely
on the spot, problem solving with them right there and then, or
right there and then.
Or asking the question that's going to lead them into, the deeper thinking, or you've got, and you use that word roving, which I love because you are on the move, through that classroom, to get in there with the kids, see what they're doing as they're doing it.
Yeah, and you've got to be on the move for maths is my my little saying, but you'll have to come up with one for literacy, Sharon. I don't know, but
going back a step, Rob, having them all on a problem-solving activity that they can all come in at their own entry point, that's key to it too, isn't it?
Yeah, Phil, because that means that when they go back to talk to one another about what it is that Mr. V, Rob wanted, they're all doing the same task, so they can all use the same language about it, and the explanations all related to the same topic. So that's why I'm a huge fan of open-ended problems and tasks. But even with a closed problem, as long as it's engaging, that the kids can go off, and then all of a sudden you look around, and because you've trusted yourself to trust them, and your instructions were just brief, it's what they needed, and off they go. And next minute you look around, 2 minutes in, they're all working. And then you're roving around, you're making those interactions with the kids, so straight away you're forming relationships. Every pair of my pants has got these worn-out parts on the knees, because I always bend down next to the kids, whether I'm working with year 10s, whether I'm working with preps. I just say, what's happening, dude? And, Mr. V, I'm doing this. Oh, yeah, look, love what you're doing. You're on the right track. What's your name? I'm Cal. Yeah, g'day, Cal. And so it's just all the time, just making a relationship, move on to the next kid. But they know that this guy's interested. He cares.
Yes.
And
because you're teaching and you're also assessing them at the same.
Yeah, and it is your teaching time, Phil. I don't know how it is in SA, but over here we have this thing called that somebody named it explicit teaching, and nobody really defined it properly, and
or everyone defined it in particular ways.
That's me up the front telling the kids what I know. I teach them explicitly through my knowledge, and I go, oh no. The best explicit, the most effective explicit teaching is when you're one-on-one with a kid. You will you'll never have more effective or teaching than that moment. You're able to give the kids immediate feedback, and it's personalised. The best teaching you'll ever do is one-on-one. But of course, occasionally you have to. These 3 kids all have the same misconception, or these 4 kids are lacking the same skill. Quick, come over here, and I take a group there and then, or I might take them tomorrow, having assessed that today. Go, okay, my follow-up tomorrow is to grab them. Or occasionally I stop the whole grade, and just the kids. I notice you're all having trouble with the brackets. Listen, why don't you try this? And it's a gap that nobody in the room can fill. It's back to me. So then I might do that form of explicit teaching. But to think that explicit teaching only means you up the front transferring knowledge, which is just such a inefficient way to teach. No. So and that momentum stays up then. So I've had a great warm up, a short introduction, over to you kids, do my teaching, mostly one-on-one, might have grabbed a group, might have had to stop the whole grade, and then to kick it off. And I was talking about that celebration you said at the start of the podcast about. So I want the kids now to reflect on their work, and to me that's like a celebration. So sometimes I do a share because that's a nice way to celebrate your work, but I think I would do 3 reflections to every one shares where a kid actually needs to verbalise, and I actually most times I get it written. What did you find out today? What did you discover? How did you feel about maths today? And so it goes a bit deeper, and I think both of you have seen it. I use keywords a lot to give kids language.
Yes, I was going to bring you back to that.
The keywords is a fantastic tool that you use, Rob. No?
Yes, maybe if we can just talk about that, because you did mention it briefly. So during the warm-up or in the introduction, you are capturing very quickly the language that is going to support the learning.
Yeah, it's crucial, Sharon. That's in any school that you're working at, whether it's the finest to the most struggling kids. We all need that. You make an argument for kids that are in high areas of EAL or low socioeconomic areas. Language is a real issue, and it is with a lot of Australian kids. It's not just something for kids from overseas. So what I try and do from the start of the lesson, I put a space up on the board and just label it keywords. And I might already have some up there, so it's like a learning intention. This is what we're doing today, kids, but it's in the form of words in a list. And we add to that list of words as we go along, and it's just a fantastic way. And because you've written it up as a list, you can put a symbol next to it. So if we were doing the word triangle before, and one of the preps one of the reception kids had said, "This is a triangle," so then I'd put up the word triangle, and then I'd draw a 3-sided shape, and the kid then doesn't have to know what TRIANGLE says. He goes, "Well, it must say triangle because the dude has drawn a triangle next to that word, so that must say triangle." And maths is a richly symbolic language. So if you say equal, I bet you everybody out there just saw the 2 parallel lines. Or if you say multiply, you see the X. Or so keywords. Just marvellous.
Yes.
Just high impact teaching is to put up keywords.
But Rob, you need space on your whiteboard, don't you?
You do need space on your whiteboard. I know where you're digging, Phil.
Yeah, we won't be too
We won't be too explicit, but yes, you do need to get some of the stuff that's on your whiteboard off, so you actually have because it's supposed to be white, and it's as I'd say, it's for whiting on. So get a space and label it keywords, and it's a sacrosanct area of your board now.
It could almost be used for all subject areas, couldn't it, really?
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. I used to use it for my inquiry topics if I had a lit focus, to put up. And kids, when you get into a school and you have an influence, and you go into, I was at a school last year in Warrnambool, and the phys editor had been involved in a couple of days PD that we had, and he had his keywords for his session up there. And it was just fantastic. The art teacher was doing it as well, so the kids were getting keywords no matter what lesson they were involved in. And it's just language. Most kids aren't held back by maths; they're held back by the terminology and vocab of maths. And if you can help kids with that, they soak it up.
Yes.
You should hear a prep say commutative property, like it's just so funny. And they just love it.
So when they write their reflection, they've got all this rich language that's up there on the whiteboard. They can
exactly.
use.
Yes. So I support it with them. So I make the tasks. They're always brief, but they're that high sort of impact. I might give them a sentence starter that they have to finish, or you've got 20 words to tell me what you found out doing maths today. No recounts. It's got to be about what you found out. And a lot of times kids go, I don't know what to write about. I go, dude, check out the board. They go, every time. Like I would say this is about 100%. They look at the board and go, yeah, actually, I do know what to write about. Look at all the words. They're up there. And so, so I use things like rocket writing when you have to get their sentence starters. Today I found out. I'm still not too sure about. Next time I would. And to finish those sentence starters, they've got all the keywords up there. So it's or it's 15 words or 20 words to tell me what you found out about maths, or
exactly 20
might
words.
be the Y diagram. Yeah, and it's got to be exactly 20 words, not one word over, not one word less. Exactly 20. So that by doing that, you've still maintained that. Taking it back to the trench, you lost momentum. Is that we haven't lost any momentum. We've finished the student activity. They loved it. They enjoyed it. We're highly engaged. And then we get straight into a very doable share or reflection. The shares I do are not... they're not those heinous circle shares that just kill me. It's they're... So if it's a share, exactly, it might be a gallery walk or something that at least you're up and mobile and they've got some direction to it. There's some things we can do to keep the momentum, and it's called the trench. It lost momentum because we start digging the trench. So if you've had the lesson that I've just described, it's high momentum all the way through, but it's where you lose the kids is through the introduction, going for 5, 10, still telling them what you know, 15, still telling them what you know, 20 minutes, and you've now dug at you're now that deep you can't dig yourself out by the end of it. There's not enough time now to dig yourself out, and nobody else dug the trench. You did by talking too much. So that's the way it goes.
Yeah, so in literacy we've talked about, starting off with a read aloud and then going into the independent reading and then having a share at the end. It's kind of like, we haven't talked about this in our podcast before, but we do call it, also another word for it is a workshop model, where you do the same in maths as the model's the same in maths as it is in literacy, that you are starting off in a similar way. Yes. It's a similar pedagogy, isn't it? And then you've got the independent work where you're going around conferring and you're assessing kids and you're teaching them on the spot, and then there's a share towards the end. It's a great model. It really does maintain that momentum, and we avoid that trench, don't we, Rob?
Yes, absolutely, Phil. And it's the worst. Like it'd be the same in I don't imagine in a music lesson. Like the kids might come in, you do some sort of warm up with them on the percussion instruments. They have a bit of free range on some of the instruments, or directed free play. Now the kids now don't want to hear the music teacher talk for the next 25 minutes about about the oral perspectives of the Southern Botswana bongo drum.
Well, that sounds interesting.
But they are a good drum. But they just want to go and hit those suckers and see what noise it makes. And and so you give the kids some direction. Okay, this is how you approach it. Now off you go.
Yeah.
And then in fact, go around to the kids and just say, no, use your palm of your hand, if that is bongo drum style, but use the palm of your hand, not your fingers or whatever it might be. And you do that explicit teaching one-on-one, give it a wrap up at the end, and you've sort of got yourself a nice little lesson. So I think it stacks for phys ed or art or music and literacy, numeracy. It's a workshop model or an instructional model that works very well.
And that share and reflection at the end, really, we find in literacy, and I think you do in maths, that it really deepens their learning and solidifies their idea of what's going on, and
I regard as crucial. It's probably the thing that drops off the quickest, and I understand, because all of a sudden, especially when the kids are highly engaged, the time goes that quick. You actually look up and go, "Oh, was that the bell?" And or the other thing is, you don't want to interrupt your kids because they're so engaged, and there's a great working buzz in the room. We all know what that feels like, and you're a bit loath to interrupt it. But one of my points is that the best time to interrupt your kids is when they're working well. The worst time is when they're frustrated, and another 2 or 3 minutes would get them over the line. Then it's a decision you have to make. But no, the best time to interrupt them is when they're working well, because now you know that the reflection's going to be pretty good, because they're into the task. They're happy to write about it. Who wants to write about something? Who wants to write about your holiday? If you didn't go on a holiday and you were stuck inside at COVID for 3 months, if you're motivated, you've been engaged, and you've got the support of the key words, kids will write. They will write.
And they're really writing something meaningful.
That
is, they've been active, they've been, in discovery and investigative problem-solving mode. And so now there are rich things to share. And I think when we get children to reflect in writing, some of the time, like you say, you will often get them to do that written reflection maybe more times than they might do an oral share. But those written reflections in in their maths workbook or whatever, what a story they tell. And there it is, caught for a child. This is, look at what I've just said. Look at what I've discovered. Look at
the words I've used.
Yes.
How smart do I sound? How smart am I?
Such rich information that if I didn't get to every child during that time, look at what's been caught for the child. And there's the celebration right there and then, whether they got to celebrate with somebody at that time. Or whether somebody gets to see that at another time.
It's a marvellous thing to, as a teacher, to sometimes I get some of the kids to read out their rocket writing, or I call for volunteers. I never make them do it, but if the kid's done their 20 words, and say, "Do you want to share those 20 words? They're excellent." And the kid says, "No." I said, "No worries, but I'll pick somebody else." And then I collect the books at the end, and it's just, as a teacher, you read through and you go, that's exactly what I wanted the kids to get from that lesson, and this kid has articulated it beautifully.
And how fantastic for report writing and
it's really, we talk a lot about how, and formative assessment, you have to get your head around it, but when you do, you realise that so many things are actually formative assessment. And one of the things is just read what the kids told you. That's a great insight into how they went, and make sure there's an opportunity for the kids to say, "This is what I found out, but this is what I'm struggling with." And if you set them up with the right lessons and the right vocab and terminology through the key words, you'll actually get great insights into the kids. Wonderful insights. And it's a good thing for you. You feel good about yourself. You walk out of that lesson going, "Man, I nailed that lesson today. Look at what my kids wrote."
And so much richer than, we have our standardised tests, but so much richer than that, isn't it? So you're finding a really broad or deep way of finding out what those kids know.
Well, of course, what it's doing too is it's informing us about what we're going to do the next day.
Yes.
What are we going to bring to our students the next day? Where are we ready to go with that? So that, we should always say, when we start up with I always talk about this in literacy, if we're going to bring a mini lesson to our students, we're going to talk about what we're bringing to them and why it matters.
Yes.
Because if it, and that what we're choosing to bring to them should be based on what we discovered from them the day before. Well, we are ready to, we can go further here, or wow, you guys, have just gone to this level of this. What about we explore this now? So, the learning intention, as we know, can sometimes be a little too restrictive.
Yeah, it can be an inhibiting thing. And so you write them too specific, and then you've gone either haven't got there, or have you gone way past it. If you do it too general, well, you might as well put it up in the keywords anyway. So there's an art to doing a good learning intention, and it comes back to planning. There's some of the people listening in might be going, well, how do I plan my week if I'm going to react to the lesson the day before? And I think that just goes back to it's the sort of tasks that you're planning. If you've planned a week of engaging regularly open-ended tasks, then it's easy to work tomorrow's lesson based on some assessment stuff that you've picked up on the Tuesday to work Wednesday's lesson to accommodate what you've just seen the day before. So
I was going to bring that. I was going to bring that up, Rob. Before I can hear teachers saying, I'd really like to get into this way of teaching, but what are some really great open-ended tasks I can teach them? And there are some great resources out there, aren't there? I mean, you've got tasks on your website, of course. But
there's some really good resources out there as well, fellas. There's actually I don't know, rattle them off on radio here, but the Rich Assessment Task booklet, Lil Burn and Sullivan's Open-Ended Activities book. There's a couple. I think the ones that I recommend are actually on my website, and of course a couple of my own are in there as well. And it goes without saying. But and really, in the end, it's good teachers. Well, you can end up making your own up. It's there's certainly resources out there where you can regularly plan for 4 or 5, whatever you want, open-ended activities a week. My main thing is I love activities that are open because I don't have to worry about the range of abilities in my room that way. Yeah. But number one, before the open-ended, it's got to be engaging. We have an obligation to engage our kids.
So what's your secret there, Rob, to make it engaging?
Momentum. Have good warm-ups that win them over. Again, look, they're go to the website or get some good resources, but have guaranteed winner warm-ups. Don't talk too long in the introduction. Get the kids into the task, because this is your teaching time, not during the intro. Your teaching time is when you're getting amongst them. And then pick up your assessment information as you're going along. Observe, note who's doing what. Pick up samples. I'm a huge fan of collecting their work and checking it out, and that gives me a great insight and great ideas for what to do the next day. And finish off your lesson. Bring it home with a really good share and particularly a really good reflection activity, and you've maintained your momentum, and it's a happy classroom.
A teacher getting into this for the first time, a closed type of question is like 6 plus 4 is equal to 10, but just to turn that around, you just say, here's 10. What are all the ways that you can make 10?
It's a very simple example of it. Exactly, Phil. It's turning what is 7 plus 5? Okay, I've only got one answer. How many different pairs of numbers can you add to get to 12? Yeah. Okay, the kid might identify a pattern, which is a problem-solving strategy, and just go 12, 0, 11, 1. You go, well, good one. Then you go, okay, what about having 3 numbers? What about using addition, subtraction, and ending up at 12? Like all of a sudden, you go, well, this is never ending, because you just open the whole thing up. Yeah. And so it's and a lot of times it's just go, okay, this is the answer I wanted. Okay, now how do I turn that around? And I'll start with the answer. 12 is what the answer I wanted. Now, how many different ways can you make it? So, but there are good resources out there, and go to my website and gets links from there. But there's plenty of good people who have done many good things for open-ended problems, really good warm-ups. So it's all out there.
The link to literacy is what you're doing through this is you're immediately getting the kids to think and problem solve, rather than, I just need to get one answer here. And in literacy, we do that too. We're trying to get the kids really thinking about their reading or their writing. It's not just, copying something that we want them to copy or whatever.
Or following a particular formula or in writing. If we've just
you
got
want a reaction, you want an emotion.
Yes. We want to, you're drawing on and you're wanting them to be, the big link I'm making here too is how active we have our students during this time. That it's we need them most of the time, and we would say this, with reading workshop, a reader's workshop or a writer's workshop. Once again, the mini lesson is a mini lesson. It isn't a maxi lesson. It is, it's really, it's focused on, we know what what's next here, but we are allowing the readers to be reading for most of the time, the writers to be writing most of the time. And I think particularly in reading, we can, we know that we should be conferring with students, during the readers and writers workshop. But I think the one thing that you've really highlighted today, and, we'll talk about roving conferences in a readers workshop.
Yes. Yep.
It doesn't have to be
laborious,
just a one-on-one with a child each day. I can get round to a lot of children as they're reading. I can be checking in with so many of them by roving. Yep. And so, we want to, when it's not about sit there for 20 minutes and read and I'll engage with one child in that time. It really is about being on the move, being with them, being in there and being instructionally active with them, being able to be there at points of need, get them over that little hump into the next action and be responsive to what's going on. So, I think that's been a really big connection that we can make, around that real, that roving or what we might call roving conferences are the quick conferences. They're important, just like with the writing. I can be in a writer's workshop, I can rove so readily, to just, but it's seeing the child in action, seeing them as the mathematician or as the problem solver or as the reader, as the writer, and not trying to respond to that after it's all over.
I reckon the big rich resources that you've got in numeracy, the big guns, are like the open-ended problem solving and the maths materials that you use. In literacy, we have fantastic children's literature, so these are the kind of the tools that, we have to have the.
We've got the curriculum and we've got the things we're teaching, but yes, it's the tools that we, there are effective tools. It's really like you're talking about. There is, the effective lesson, or there's the ineffective lesson. There's the effective tools. There's the ineffective tools. And we can. But I really love your term about keeping that momentum. It is easy for us to get into a trench, and digging out of that trench.
It's hard.
It's
Once
so
you've done
hard.
You look around your kids, and they're like, if they're foundation kids, they just fall over out of boredom, like trees in a forest. They just lean over to one side and they fall down.
And a great thing to do as a teacher is to just reflect on. It's okay to fail at things. Things don't go quite the way you planned them, and you just reflect on that. And how can I do that tomorrow a much better way? Especially early career teachers that are just starting off.
Look, it's there's a lesson that bombs is when you put it on a true catastrophe scale, where where COVID is up near the top, or a flood, or a drought, or a fire. A lesson that doesn't go your way is very very low. It doesn't feel it at the time, but when you look at it with some perspective, it's very low on the catastrophe scale. Just bounced back the other day. Yes. The kids aren't taking notes and running off to the principal. Well, maybe they are at some places, but all is not lost. Just as a bad lesson. Okay, it didn't go well. I said, no worries, kids. I normally have an adult. Now that I trust myself more, I said, what happened? What went wrong? And the kids they say, oh, Mr. V, you did this, or I did, it was too hard for us. I go, yeah, all right, it was too. Look, we'll let's go on to do something else. So I've always got something up my sleeve, and off we go. And they go, yeah, righto. They're just ready to move on.
Yeah, teaching is they're very forgiving.
Yes, they are. They're kids. How lucky are we to be involved in the profession? Kids are fantastic. Yeah. And they're weird, and sometimes they're awful, and sometimes they're just so funny, and sometimes they're just so sad. I mean, they're just humans. Smaller versions, but they're so smart, and they're there for you. There's a real chance to leave something with kids from every lesson you take, and if a lesson goes bad, well, you got tomorrow. They'll all be there again tomorrow, and bounce back with them.
The other connection I've made, Rob, is that you really believe in, because I've heard you talk about it before, the little ones at the prep, or we call them receptions here, but or foundation, being have potential to do some really big, strong learning. Now, we also talked about that recently in literacy, where you can do a read aloud that those kids can't actually read that book, but they're
listening.
They're listening to these amazing ideas in this read aloud.
Yes,
and you've got a similarity there in maths, haven't you? With
Yeah, I have high expectations. Really, with some of the inane. Sorry, it's a bit rough, but some of the inane dribble that I see kids, reception kids, or foundation kids involved in, it just makes me cry. It's well, not literally, but I do get sad. It's just like, oh my God, you're kidding! Stop doing that. These kids are so bright. I did it. I took a lesson, it was a year before, I think, and was there must be some miscommunication, but the numeracy coordinator said, oh, Rob, can you take a lesson with these foundation kids on fractions? And so I said, no worries. I went and see the teacher, and she said, oh, fractions? And she looked really worried. And I'm going, oh, yeah, well, look, that's what I thought I was taking on was, now it's 5 to 9 or something. It was too late to change it. And he said, oh, look, we'll see how we go. And so I started off with the kids, just my warm-up. And actually I did the old tell me 10 things. I said, okay, tell me 10 things about half. And so I wrote the word half on the board, and the teacher was at the back of the room observing the session, and she was just frantically waving her arms. And I'm going, oh, my God, what's happened? Is my fly undone or something? But it was, so I just said, oh, sorry, something wrong? And she goes, we haven't done half. We haven't done half yet. And it was, okay. And I said, oh, look, let's see what they know anyway. And so I wrote the numbers 1 to 10 on the board. So tell me 10 things you know about half. Nobody in the room's allowed to tell me more than one thing. Just stops a kid dominating. And look, we were still going after 10 things. Yes. They were still telling me stuff. Yeah. They included half as part of a whole. They included half as part of a collection. Kids were talking about half past on a clock. Some AFL kid was saying it's you have half time in the footy. Some came out and drew a half and then coloured in, drew a circle and coloured in half, and they were just rocking it. Yeah. And so my point is that just because you haven't taught it doesn't mean the kids don't know it. They come to school smart as, and we dumb them down from day one almost, unless we're on the ball as a teacher. So that's just an illustration of trust yourself to trust kids. Because you haven't taught it doesn't mean they don't know anything. No. Or if you ask them to tell me 10 things about a half and they tell you 2 things, you go, okay, I need to really get some experiences going with these kids. They're obviously from a cohort, or they're from an area where a half is just not known to them. Okay, so that's not a cause for panic. That just means, okay, all right, I know what to do with the lesson coming up. So you adapt.
And that's learning is so exciting. It's when we can,
thanks for being asked to tell what you know. Yes. for some teachers, that's just such a foreign concept. No, it's all about me telling you what I know. No, it isn't. You keep that up your sleeve until you absolutely need it for an individual or a group or a whole grade.
Yes.
But most times kids have a terrific wealth of knowledge. They just don't get asked.
No, don't get asked and not haven't been given an opportunity to articulate what they know. Because if I haven't been given a chance to articulate it, maybe it's not something that's important to know. That's what kids, or someone's already given the answer, so it's not any point me saying anything now because they've already said it.
My discovery's gone.
Yes. So, we really want to open the door, don't we? That's what the warm-up, the introduction does, whether it's in numeracy, literacy. Open that door and let us, what do we know? What have we just discovered? What did that person saying that make me think or work out? Or, it is far more about the interactions between us all, not like you're saying, the the deliverance of whatever it is we have to say that day.
We're learning together.
As teacher, we are learning together, and who's the smartest in the room is not. There is not one person who is the smartest in the room. We are all, we're all smart because we are engaging in the process of learning,
and therefore we all have an entry point.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's giving kids the opportunity, and would they need to walk into a space? If we just fill that space with our knowledge, they have nothing to walk into. So we need to leave them some room, leave them some space, and give them an opportunity. And if they don't take the opportunity, well, that might be a gap. You need to do some scaffolding, or very rarely, hopefully, you might have to do some telling.
But more often than not, it does open the opportunity for children to actually ask the question then. If they don't know. So what is as simple as like whatever question that is, as long as they can ask the question, then they're engaging in the learning. Even if the question is, I'm not sure what you have just asked me to think about. There's a great question. It's like, so what did you hear? What did you know? It's not necessarily just telling them again. Maybe we've got another question to ask them. To let them do some more of that thinking rather than closing everything off.
Continually opening up their thinking, and that's you just try to get better and better at that as a teacher as you go along.
You do. It's your silences, or it's sometimes if you just have some silence, the kid goes, okay, that's a gap I think he expects me to fill, and the kid's right. So I just so often I just wait. I'm just very patient to for a chance for a kid to give a response. And if the kid doesn't grab that opportunity, I'll just say, well, have you tried? Or what about? Or what do you already know? And it's just the last thing I want to do is tell.
Yep.
Last resort.
Last resort.
Indeed. It is the last resort. I'd rather you found it out from somebody else other than me, because I don't want you to think that I'm the one who's going to give you the knowledge, because I can't. Sometimes I don't even have it myself. Who has all the knowledge in the world? It's a different way we learn nowadays. So the kids have to become thinkers themselves, and
and you can't.
We can't breed that independence if we keep telling them everything.
And you can't get this kind of thinking going necessarily through a scripted program, Rob.
No, that's almost full circle. Well drawn, Phil. It is. That's how we started the conversation, Phil. It's that's one of the huge dangers, or it's not even a danger. It's inherent in teaching from textbooks. Is you're killing curiosity. I think it's well known they dumb you down as a teacher, and they dumb kids down. So well,
they were written by a person for another place and another time, and not in your classroom for your kids at that particular time. How can it ever match what you're doing on that day?
Yep.
Anyway, Rob, just to wrap it up here, we when we have our special guests, we just ask some quick top of the head questions, And feel free to just answer them any way you'd like to. Like, here we go. Are you okay with that, Rob?
Was that the first question?
Yeah. No. What was your favourite book as a child and why?
Oh, jeez. The first one that came into my head then was a book I had to read at high school. It was called Darkness at Noon, Arthur Koestler or somebody. I actually read it after I finished my schooling. I thought, that was cool. And then I read it again a couple of years later. Then I read it again. So I don't know why, but it was a very good book. But
that's the one. So there you go.
Yeah.
That's the one that stuck in your mind.
I didn't expect that question, and that was the first one that jumped in my head. So
that's fine.
Darkness at bloody noon. Well, who would have thought?
Yeah. Well, we'll all go out to buy it now.
Yes.
Maybe it's not my holiday reading. Who wants Darkness at Noon?
Well, sounds like an eclipse. What's
prison drama?
What's your most interesting school story? You've got a lot, I know. You know, it's hard to get the one that's.
It's hard to narrow it down. I don't know. What was it? A recent? I was teaching a very, very tough school in Melbourne, and a girl in grade 1. I actually sort of know her because I do a lot of work at this school, and I could tell her first name. Her first name is Willow, and I hadn't even started. I reckon I said 3 words, and she's gone, "Oh my God, this is so effing boring." Oh God, jeez, Willow, give me a break. I only said good morning.
Cut you off in your prime.
Cut me off my prime. Oh, jeez.
Oh, they can be brutal. I remember I went into a reception or prep class, many years ago, and I had this lovely picture book, and I said, "Now, would you all like to hear a story?" And they said, "Nah."
Collectively.
So collectively, I had. Where do you go from there when they just say no?
Okay, let's
don't ask that question again. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sure you pulled that lesson back for Willow.
Oh, it was just lucky I knew her, and she's a pretty special girl. She got some issues, obviously, but yes, I did. But the thing is, she's as bright as a button. So, so sometimes she actually was bored in her classroom. But I got on the right side. I swear, I said 3 words.
Yeah.
Obviously, they didn't appeal to her, the 3 words.
No, the wrong 3.
They must have been.
Question 3, how do you think you learnt to read? At school, home?
Look,
special person?
No, at home, but I don't know. I can't remember how I accumulated the ability to read. But I know that Mum took the time to read to me. I had 2 older brothers, but they did the same. And I still think whenever I do a maths night for parents, when I leave them with some tips, I said tip number 1. Read to your kids. Not only is it great for their literacy, it's just great for them as human beings. Yes. So I'm sure that's how I accumulated it. That's just read to your kids. It gives you a love of books, then you're interested in how they work, and they're made up of words, and how do these words work, and all of a sudden you're on your way. So no, I can't remember a thing, but I know I went into school already knowing about books.
Yes. Yeah. And so interestingly, there are so many people who, good readers, don't remember the process. They just know that.
No, I got no idea.
So and that's just the wonder, isn't it, of it as a process. And yet sometimes we seem to try and nail it as a process for every child because this is what's going to work, and yet, wow.
Yeah, we're overthinkers of it sometimes.
Aren't we? So back to that, trust. We have to trust ourselves as teachers, to trust the children. Is, I think, or trust our learners. I think that's such a big takeaway for that. The whole notion, for teaching and for learning.
Yep.
Trust trust ourselves as
Trust
teachers
yourselves
to
and trust your
trust
kids.
the learners. Yeah.
Two to go. Best question you love to ask students?
How'd you do that?
Oh, yeah.
Fabulous. Yep.
How'd you do that? Yep. Fantastic.
You don't sound really excited, Phil.
Okay, I better say
like another one, Phil.
Yeah, got another answer? No. That was...
What the hell is that all about?
Last question.
Which also works well. Yeah.
Yes.
Best tip for thriving in teaching maths?
Best tip for
thriving in teaching maths.
Don't get into that trench.
Yeah, don't trust yourself, trust your kids.
Yeah.
Don't talk too much. A lot of teachers, particularly primary, are not confident in maths. I know I wasn't. And you know what you do when you're not confident? You talk.
Yeah.
You talk to fill the gap in your own knowledge, and you end up talking too much, and you just dig the hole. So it's hand it over to the kids as quick as you can would be my advice sometimes.
Because you're the first one to say that you didn't enjoy maths, and you never foresaw yourself getting into being a maths consultant, did you?
No. There'd be many a teacher that's been unfortunate enough to have had me as a student would be just shaking their heads, going, "This dude is a maths consultant." But yeah, so it's it just shows.
In some ways, it's hard to you've been taught this way of teaching. You've been taught this way of maths at the schools
as a learner,
and then you've become a teacher, and you're wanting to change to a more open-ended problem-solving way. It's sometimes a difficult jump for teachers, isn't it, Rob?
It is. It's and look, 95% of maths, Phil, is confidence and attitude. We're all capable of being good mathematicians. Some are capable of being great mathematicians. That's not me, but I realised I'm capable of being a good mathematical thinker, and I always was. And but the teaching that happened to me, it sounds so easy to blame it on the teachers, but I was just a bit unlucky. I think I had a run of teachers that might have been good in an area, or they just weren't good at anything. And so I never got an interest or a liking or an affinity with maths, and so no surprises. I had no very poor confidence or very poor attitude to it, and low confidence about it. So it took me to become a teacher and just realise, hold on, I actually do know some of this stuff. There's got to be a better way of doing it. And you start to question, you experiment, you try, and you gauge your kids' reactions. You go, actually, this is working. And that didn't happen overnight, but all of a sudden they go, hey, I'm okay at maths, and I'm okay at teaching it. And that's. And now there's things you can do with professional development and the right resources, and you can kick that on. That took me years to reach that point. And, so that I'm in the business now trying to not have that take a teacher years to get to that point where they go, hey, I'm okay at maths, and you know what? I'm a good teacher of it.
And enjoying the teaching.
Yeah, of course, because that came with it.
Yes.
Oh, that came with it. Yeah.
Because there's nothing like when you go into a school, you love to actually teach a classroom and be there with the teacher and show them how part of the lesson or even the whole lesson goes. You find that a valuable way of really getting change.
Teachers seeing
I think. Yeah, I think the right combination is that, and it doesn't always have to be in this order, but that you do a PD day with staff and just say, this is what I think good maths is all about, and just a swag of activities, and they get a sense of it, and then they see it either the next day or not long after with their own kids, and you go, that stuff he was talking about, I just saw that, and I saw the way that Michael and Angelina reacted, man. That works, and sometimes you have to see it with your own kids to go, yep, that works. I'm going to try it. Yep, and fair enough. I think as humans we have the right to be, if not skeptical, that you sort of go, okay, it sounds good, but I don't know if it'll work with my kids. That's us. That's who we are as teachers and as humans. So when they see it with their own kids, well, that's proof. That's there. I'm going to try that.
Yeah, and sometimes we as teachers, in our own learning, find ourselves in the trench of lost momentum.
Yeah. We've all been there.
Yes, yeah. And so when, we can engage in professional learning, that can really help us see and do the doing, do the learning, just like, we've been talking about today, then I think that really, we need those models for learning to help us get into the doing. Otherwise, if we're just reading about it or being told about it, because lots of professional learning can be someone just speaking to us. So it's that same thing. We can find ourselves as adult learners in that trench.
So we like to we
very much so, Sharon.
Just like you'd like to, Rob, actually show the lessons. We do that with literacy as well. So it's just so valuable for them to actually see the teaching in action. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Always will be.
Yes. Yeah. Rob, there's 3 things that I talk a lot about when I'm working with teachers, and that I say are important for learners, and that's self-motivation, self-direction, and self-regulation. And everything you've talked about today has helped us. Because teachers will often say to me, I'd love my students to be self-motivated, self-regulated, self-directed. How do we get there? And this effective structure, lesson structure and learning structure, as we talk with a reader's workshop, writer's workshop, that's what helps kids get there, because they are doing it for themselves.
Yep, it's what sets the whole thing up. Yeah. So if you have that structure and that model and that workshop model right, and you overlay the trench of lost momentum over that, you're well on your way. Yes. You're well on your way.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Rob, we might wrap it up there today, and thank you so much for being with us. It's just been so valuable, and we really got down to the nuts and bolts of some tools and techniques and tips for teaching, which is fantastic.
My pleasure.
Mostly in numeracy, but a little bit of matching up with literacy as well.
Yeah, I think it's about learning.
Yes, I think that as we mentioned, that workshop model or that instructional model can be effective no matter what you're doing in a school.
Yeah. And thank you everyone for joining us today from all over the world, mostly in Australia. If you want to contact us through our Q Learning website, or Rob through his website, Rob Vingerhoets, we'd love to hear from you and any questions you have. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, or listen to this podcast on your favourite platform. Thank you very much today, Sharon, the co-host.
A pleasure, as always.
And thank you very much, Rob.
We are.
Thank you, yes. Sharon. Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rob. It's great to have the insights of those who have worked through. None of us are sitting here, saying, "Oh, well, we've always been like this." This is the learning.
It's no theory. It's no theory. It's learned from practice.
That's right. And so, and we in our jobs, love that we can share that with the profession. Yep. So we really appreciate what you've brought to the discussions about learning that we are offering through the podcast, and hope that people here in South Australia, there's many who have caught up with you, and of course the Victorians. I know you work Hobart, so you're working down in Tasmania.
Yes.
You work in the ACT.
Off to Canberra. Yes.
Heading that way. So great to really back the work that you're doing for the profession, and hope that lots of teachers, lots of listeners make those connections and know that they've got places to go for further information and support around those things. Yeah, so thanks so much, Rob.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for all you're doing for teachers and for the profession. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah.
Thank you, Phil and Sharon. Appreciate it. So thanks for the invitation.
A pleasure. I'm sure we'll hear from you again.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Signing off
Thank
now.
you.
Okay,
Yeah.
and goodbye, listeners.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. To make sure you don't miss any literacy learning tips and insights, please subscribe to our show on your favourite podcast player. At Q Learning, our literacy specialists draw on over 30 years of teaching and international consulting experience to deliver world-class learning solutions. We equip, empower and support teachers to become their authentic selves. To find out about upcoming webinars and about how Q can help you and your school, visit qlearning.com.au. And you can get even more amazing teaching resources right now at teachific.com.au. Stay tuned.